I've made multiple videos on how to match in residency, what to do about step 1, step 2 CK, or step 3, but I've never done an interview to talk about the fellowship match after doing residency in the US. And this is a controversial topic because so many IMGs do residency in the US, in US residency programs, but they have difficulty matching into competitive fellowships because they're not in high prestigious programs. So that's why I brought my friend, my longtime friend, who I interviewed 2 years ago when he matched into residency at Baylor College of Medicine. And now I'm interviewing him again, but this time to talk about fellowship and how he matched at a phenomenal GI fellowship at UCLA. Welcome, Firas, back to the channel.
Thank you very much, Malke, for having me again. I can't believe it's 2 years already, and glad to be here and share my experience and help any applicants as well.
Awesome. Let's start by talking about the application timeline. When you're in residency, when do you start thinking about applying to fellowship? And when is the application deadline? When do you interview and when do you match?
Sure. So first, it's important to know the timeline so you can organize your schedule and plan during residency. Usually the application submission is in July of like your third year. So the first month of your third year into residency. And interviews are usually around September up to very early November, but predominantly in October. And then you submit your rank list in mid-November, and you get the results of the match in the around December 1st. And you start in the July of next later year. Deciding is on what fellowship to pursue, the earlier the better, especially for competitive fellowships, to be able to build up a competitive application for that fellowship especially.
So that means you only have 2 years to build your application for the fellowship, and residency is tough. So what do you think people should do when they're starting residency and now listening to us, or even they're doing the application for residency? Because I feel that the time is very short. It's not, you don't have a lot of time to prepare for the fellowship application.
That's so true. And, time flies into residency. So if you're not like prepared in advance, by the time the application is due, you feel like you're not ready. You didn't build up a strong resume. So first, knowing what fellowships, subspecialty you're interested in is early is very important, especially if we're talking about gastroenterology, cardiology, hemonc, pulm-cred. Those are competitive fellowships that require a strong application that you need to work on early. So try to decide as early as possible. I usually tell interns who work with me, like by mid-intern year, you should know what fellowship you want to seek. If you don't know already, it might be a harder journey to go through later on to be applying to a competitive program. And in terms of like what makes someone a successful applicant and a competitive applicant, I think the main thing is balancing your residency performance with building a competitive fellowship application. People underestimate how important is it to be a great resident, first of all. Some would focus on the fellowship application in terms of, let's say, research and other stuff, which we're going to go over. But being a great resident is key. And that's what, it's get reflected in the program director letter of recommendation and in your reputation at your own institution, and also across their letters of recommendations for fellowship. Going over the, fellowship application, keys to be a competitive applicant, one would be being, productive in terms of research and scholarly activities. And that usually has like various levels, starting like, early on, maybe as an intern, as case reports, later on as presenting at, local national conferences, but, writing up manuscripts. And other thing is, another factor is connecting with mentors. The earlier, the better. And you can start connecting with mentors at your own institution. You can ask residents who are older than you, who are already, familiar with mentors. If you don't have, opportunities for mentorship at your own institution, then try to connect through the societies with other, mentors across the U.S. And we're fortunate nowadays with, social media and everything to have those connecting opportunities much easier. And most societies, at least from GI, have those, programs that offer mentorship, which is key for your, application and to network as well. And another thing is like seeking up, elective in the field you're interested in as you request your, program or your schedule for your residency. You need to try to ask for electives in the field you're interested in that can lead up to, connection, strong letter of recommendations, and also exposure to that field, to familiarize yourself as, a future fellow in this field as well. And while you work on all of these, it's just trying to balance these things, and along with your residency performance is going to be key.
That is a great advice when it comes to how to build a competitive application for fellowship. Some might wonder, do I need to score high on any exams that I take during residency? Do my step 1, step 2 CK, step 3 scores matter in the fellowship application?
That's a great question, Melke. I believe like your USMLE scores are going to continue to be a factor in, the fellowship application, but as not as strong as is for residency maybe application. But people do, filter those. But it's not going to be a main like top three factors as is maybe for residency. Another thing is that, in terms of like in training exam performance, that's a question people ask me. Well, the main key with the in-training exam is likely it reflects how, your program director might evaluate you. Because not only your evaluations in terms of your performance and then, how professional you are involved in the program, but also that can, reflect to the program director when he writes the letter of recommendation of, your level of knowledge and how, you progress. Let's say if you perform, an average on your first year internal in training exam, then you show up like you're improving along your 3 years. That's a factor that, your program director would want to, reflect when he writes his letter of recommendation. And those are the main things. But step 3, people also ask, you don't want to be like, significantly underperforming compared to step 1 and step 2. If you're, you have great scores on those, you don't want to be all of a sudden like, to drop significantly. That might reflect that you're not like, you are not committed to that test. But it's not that big of a deal, to worry about as much as the other factors I mentioned.
Awesome. So now talking about the requirements for the application, what do you need to apply for fellowship? And do you apply through the same platform that you do through residency for the through the ERAS, or it's another way?
Yeah, it's through the ERAS. And then, believe it or not, it's very similar to the residency application. You have the ERAS application that go through the same information, personal, like educational, your medical school. It has a section now for your residency to fill up information about your, your residency performance. And then you have the research section where you fill up your research experiences, your publications. And then you have now you have to upload the letter of recommendations. Usually you need 3 to 4 letter of recommendations, and programs ask for a different amount, but the minimum is 3. This includes a standard letter of recommendation from your program director. And that's why I keep emphasizing be an excellent resident to get the strong letter from your program director. And then you have at least 2 other letters from preferably people in the same field. But some people would, it would struggle to get like 2 or 3 letters from, attendings in the same specialty. Then you can maybe get one from an internal medicine attending who knows you well. You worked with him or her for, a good time, and they're able to write you a strong letter. And 2 from the specialty you're applying in. And then you have also to have a right to personal statement to, explain why would you interested in this fellowship, what makes you a competitive applicant, or what do you seek in your career. And then also upload some supporting documents from your medical school, like transcript, diploma, MSPE, those usual stuff. But it's not that it's not hard in terms of filling the application, but it's like to be ready to to have the letters of recommendations ready, to build up your personal statement in advance, just to be organized, to work on them early, like in maybe second year, to have them ready by the time the application is due.
Great. And if anyone needs help with the personal statement, with the CV, with the interview preparation, go ahead and check our website for all the services we provide for residency and fellowship applicants. Now let's move on to talk about the choosing the programs. Do you apply to all programs in that subspecialty, or do you select certain things? And what should you be looking for when evaluating different programs?
That's another, tricky question, and there is no standard answer. It's personalized to each applicant. You have to know first, how overall your application is to be, honest when you evaluate yourself, to know how competitive you would be for the programs. That's one. And two is at the same time knowing like what are you interested in? If you're interested in clinical, maybe from to be a clinician, or are you interested in being an investigator, then you might be having to balance focusing on clinically heavy programs versus research heavy programs. And at the same time, geography plays a major role. Whether people believe that or not, people are gonna more likely to interview or match in places they have ties to. And the same, I think, for the programs inviting you to an interview, they usually seek that you have tie to the place for you to be interviewed there. So those are things to look for. And then in terms of number of programs, that's something I want to comment on briefly with the virtual setting. People used to think that, yeah, if you're coming from a good residency program, you have a strong application, that you don't need to interview much. Like some people used to even interview like 20, 30 programs maximum. I think now with the virtual setting, the amount of interviews is a bit higher because it's easier to conduct those interviews, that people might need more programs to interview at to guarantee a match. So I balance, I say it's like around 50 programs if you have a very good application, and then try to interview around like minimum of 15 programs, especially with the virtual setting. If things change in the future that becomes in person again, then it might be different to consider. And again, this is personal. Each one has to know how strong he is, and then ask around people who had same or similar application level.
That's why it's important to get an individualized advice and don't just listen to one video or one experience and extrapolate on that. It's important to listen to the whole story. And I get these questions from applicants. I have this. Do you recommend I apply or not? Do you think I'll match or not? It's not black or white. There is so much analysis that go into that. We need to understand your story. We need to understand your goals, what type of programs you want to match at. And if you want to have a one-on-one discussion with someone who's expert in that topic, go ahead and schedule a consultation on our website. Now let's go to discuss, in my opinion, the most important questions, especially for IMGs who might not match in the best programs in internal medicine, but they have good training, they are looking to match in a competitive fellowship. What do you think they can do to optimize their chances of matching in competitive fellowships if nobody from this program has matched somewhere, or they don't have a home fellowship that they can match at? What are the different options they have to match into a competitive fellowship from not much competitive program?
That's a great question. I get that a lot, like from people seeking advice, and it's not like something uncommon. People end up training where they don't have an internal fellowship, or like they don't have much opportunities for research in terms of like having the infrastructure for research, or like productive mentors at their institution in terms of research productivity, which is, as I mentioned, is key nowadays for the application. For those, I usually say, like in terms of like the scholarly productivity, there are other opportunities now. For example, like case reports it doesn't need to have like a big of infrastructure at your own institution. Another thing is like systematic reviews in your productive. You're not going to do like a prospective trial. Like it might not be able to do a large retrospective multi-center study, but maybe systematic review can be something doable with minimal infrastructure that could be needed. If you don't have mentors at your own institution, that, as I mentioned, there are now mentorship programs through the societies. Try to enroll with them. Network either through Twitter nowadays is a very big platform for not only GI but all specialties. And Twitter it offers you endless opportunities to connect with people who can help you in terms of research productivity. Now, assuming you're not ready to apply for the season when you're graduating and you're gonna take a year in between, then, or if you didn't match, what could I do? That's areas. So you can either try to seek another non-ACGME fellowship in that related to that field. For example, for GI, you can do a non-ACGME hepatology year, which can get you more exposure to that field, give you time to work on research, get stronger letters of recommendations, and maybe connect with other institutions, because you might be unimpressed by the opportunities in this area. But some non-ACGME hepatology fellowships, for example, are at big institutions. And same for other subspecialties, like maybe CARD, they have the lipid sub-fellowship. People sometimes they do lipid metabolism to improve their application. If you're not interested in any of these, you can work as a hospitalist. And during that, try to seek maybe a hospitalist opportunity at another institution that can offer you research opportunities, a mentorship, because that's what was lagging in the first one. And whenever I say that, whenever there is a will, there is a way. So if people are willing to put that extra effort, you can end up matching in an excellent, top program by working a bit harder. And you just have to realize the journey you have to go through, be organized, and then commit to the work needed.
What about doing a research fellowship for a year or two, or seeking a chief resident? I know this is something you do in internal medicine. It's a separate year compared to surgery where you do it as part of your training. What do you think about that to improve your application?
Oh, those are great points that I forgot. So thanks for bringing them up. So first is, I think the chief residency question comes up as well a lot. You have to realize, and when you apply for, chief residency, it's usually early in the second year. So it's most, programs maybe before the, application timeline. And you have to first ask yourself whether you're interested in being, a chief resident. So are you interested in the leadership, in the educational role you're playing? And then at the same time, other opportunities as a chief sometimes be a quality improvement chief resident to work on program on, improving quality of care, which might be doing also research in the fellowship specialty you're interested in at the same time during that year. And that definitely improves your application. If you don't have that chief residency fourth year opportunity at your own program, you can apply for other programs to be a chief resident for that fourth year as well. And it's the same process during that year to still work on your fellowship application by research, improving letters of recommendations and others. And the other point you brought up was the research fellowship. Yes, that's another opportunity. I think it's the less likely of those to be used compared to like chief residency, hospitalist, or the other non-ACGME fellowships. But it's another one. But you have to realize you might have to commit to 2 years sometimes, and which might be prolonging your journey. But if it's rewarding in terms of productivity and SCARD active and networking, definitely it's worth it. So the best opportunity is the one you have in your hand. So grab it if there's no other opportunities.
That was amazing and comprehensive. You covered all the pathways that someone can pursue if they want to match into competitive fellowship if they were not in a very highly competitive program. Now that you matched in GI, which is one of the most competitive in a very good program, which is UCLA, what would you say to the people watching this video are your strengths, or what kind of helped you match in such a competitive program and a competitive fellowship?
Uh, Well, I wish I had like one clear answer, but I think mentorship is key. I was fortunate and blessed to have, great mentors along my journey, not only during residency, but also, during my research year before residency. And knowing that I wanted to do GI like way before even, residency in medical school was, key in terms of getting that exposure to that field. As a foreign medical graduate, I was fortunate to get the opportunities for electives, observerships in GI, also get to do research before residency. That did help in terms of networking, getting familiar with research, and then the, GI field and GI society overall. But during residency, it was knowing that I wanted to do GI early that was helpful for me to organize my timeline during residency, and then connect with mentors. I was fortunate, as I mentioned, great mentors even during residency, who not only were helpful in terms of like scholarly productivity, but also mentoring you personally and supporting the application and your career overall. And beside that, also during residency, you might get early on into intern year, get distracted with the workload and not focus on forget about your fellowship timeline. Still, you have to have a balance of keeping an eye on things. I have a timeline, like by mid-intern year, I want to, for example, connect with a mentor. I want to have a case report, write up and publish a case report by mid-intern year. And then on and on, like my goal is to present at the next society. So have those organized, achievable goals during your residency, and realize that, you know, you have to put some extra effort during residency to be able to, you know, be competitive for fellowship application and match in a good program. And those people, you know, sometimes get distracted till second year, and then all of a sudden, you know, the application is due in 9 months, and then how can I build a strong application? Then it becomes a bit harder. So be organized and have a clear plan, and then seek mentorship and help. Be helpful as well, because that's how, you know, the journey and the role continues, and the journey and the cycle keep going.
And you missed that you were a great resident and you had phenomenal scores on all your exams. These, I'm sure, also points that helped in the application.
Thanks, Malkia. I'm sure many, you know, are, but then I think, you know, another factor is like also, you know, when you apply, like when you write your personal statement as well, have, you know, a clear you know, ideas or points highlighted in terms of, you know, why would you want to do that field? What's your vision for your own career in the future? And then in terms of, let's say, other ties to places that need to be highlighted, some people would underestimate the, you know, personal statement. Yeah, just write generic. No, it's like it would be that extra icing on the cake if you have a, you know, a clear point of view that when someone reads your personal statement or knows what you're gonna be bringing, what do you want to do in the 5-10 years ahead, then also that's something that's valuable.
Awesome. Any final advice or final tip for those applying to fellowship from US medical schools, from US residency, or international medical graduates?
So, well, besides everything we highlighted, I don't know how to summarize it in few words, but it's the same general, you know, thing I say for even residencies, that you know, just embrace the hard work you have to put in, and be organized, and you know, seek help and offer help when needed. And the main one I want to really emphasize from everything I said in terms of things is like being a great resident. That's the most important thing to build up a good reputation.
Awesome. As usual, very comprehensive and detailed information on a topic that is not generally discussed, which is fellowship. Thank you so much, Firas, for joining us today.
No, thank you very much, Malke, for having me again, and then look forward to, you know, hopefully more, you know, opportunities in the future to help applicants, and hope this gonna be helpful to many applying for the upcoming fellowship cycles.
Awesome. For those who are watching this video, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Or if you need to have a one-on-one discussion with Firas or another expert in the fellowship that you're applying to, go ahead and schedule a consultation on our website, and I'll leave the link for that in the description below and in the cards above. If you find any value in this video, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you can help this video reach out to more people who are looking to match into fellowship. And hit the bell sign so you get notified whenever I post future videos on my YouTube channel. Thank you everyone so much for joining, and see you in future videos. Peace.